Wednesday night, 2 Israeli embassy staffers were killed in Washington, D.C. after they were leaving a Jewish museum. And the perpetrator has already been arrested, apparently waited around, basically turned himself in. They left him outside while he was handcuffed. Something about the events that unfolded Wednesday night do not seem right to me. It seems somewhat suspicious, especially considering the events that happened before that shooting, which we'll get into. So I want to start off with this first as we dive into that. There is a project called Project Esther. Are you familiar with this? You guys heard about this? A national strategy to combat anti-Semitism, right? So let's get into the thick of this. Key takeaways. America, anti-Israel, anti-Zionist, and anti-American pro-Palestinian movement is part of a global Hamas support network. Pay attention to this, guys. 2, supported by activists and funders dedicated to destroying capitalism and democracy, the HSN benefits from the support and training of America's overseas enemies. Everybody pay attention. 3, the National Task Force to Combat Anti-Semitism intends to enlist partners in a coordinated effort to combat the scourge of anti-Semitism in the United States. This project, folks, I want everyone to pay attention. Because what they are saying, it says supported by activists and funders dedicated to the destruction of capitalism and democracy. It says HSN benefits from the support and training of America's overseas enemies and seeks to achieve its goal by taking advantage of our open society, corrupting our education system, leveraging the American media, co-opting the federal government, and relying on the American Jewish community's complacency. Project Esther, this project is happening as a way to supposedly combat anti-Semitism, but make no mistake, I've been reading about this for quite some time. The step here is to go further than Biden did. They actually say that, to go further than Biden did and to weed it out. So notice the language that is used. They mention the protesters. What Project Esther is trying to prove is that the people who participated in the pro-Palestinian protests are basically being funded by Hamas network. They've been funded by these groups overseas. Therefore, they can call you a terrorist, a domestic terrorist. Pay close attention. They mention here that they're corrupting our education system. That means they're going to go into the schools. One of the things they're going to want to do is they're going to try to change the curriculum. This is very important. They're going to try to change things. They may try to make it so that certain classes that don't cover history in the way that they want it covered, that those classes will be pulled from the schools. This also means that people will lose jobs. This project is the next step to silence and criminalize people who are critical of Israel. And they have a whole layout as to how they want to do this. I'm telling you about Project Esther as we get into this story, because what happened on Wednesday night, first and foremost, Sabby podcast does not condemn violence. We make this very clear. But what happened Wednesday night, to me, the way the events unfolded and the connections that the alleged shooter has and the groups that he's allegedly connected to, it all seems to me as though this was scripted. It seems a little too real. And another thing that I want to mention, you got to question the timing of it. So let's get into what happened Wednesday night. So 2 Israeli embassy staffers were shot and killed in DC. We're going to get into who they are. But first and foremost, I want you to hear what the DC police chief had to say after the event.
Both victims succumbed to their injuries. The preliminary investigation indicates that both victims were exiting an event at the cap side of the museum. He approached a group of 4 people, produced a handgun, and opened fire, striking both of our decedents. After the shooting.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to say that. Did I say that, Eric? Oh, yeah. Apparently I said, okay, I misspoke. Sab's podcast does condemn violence. Sorry. Sorry, guys. Let's go on.
The suspect then entered the museum and was detained by event security. Once in handcuffs, the suspect identified where he discarded the weapon, and that weapon has been recovered, and he implied that he committed the offense. The suspect chanted, "Free, free Palestine," while in custody. The suspect has been tentatively identified as 30-year-old Elias Rodriguez of Chicago, Illinois. Our MPD case detectives are leading this investigation.
Okay. So his name is Elias Rodriguez. Before he was even named, I saw people on social media saying, oh, it's probably one of those radical, pro-Palestinian protesters. Some people were saying it's probably an illegal immigrant. He's not an illegal immigrant. He was born and raised in Chicago. We'll get into his background. So you notice that the DC chief there said that he said free, free Palestine, right? So let's go on a little bit more. Because even when you watch this on display, to me, it just feels scripted. Watch this. So this is Elias Rodriguez here.
No. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! No.
Watch this, right? So he waits until they put the handcuffs on him, and then
free Palestine!
To me, it almost felt like this was scripted. First of all, a couple of things I noticed about this. Look at the way that he's dressed. Why is he wearing a suit? They said that at first he tried to enter the building. I guess he couldn't get in. And then he waited around. And then when people started to exit, he shot and killed 2 of them. Now, there were 4 people walking at that point in time, according to the reports. He shot and killed 2 of them, which means those 2 in particular were targeted. We'll get into who they were in just a second. But to me, it seems a little too convenient considering the timing. I also noticed something else. I have seen police beat pro-Palestinian protesters, peaceful ones. I've seen them push protesters on the ground. This guy just killed 2 people, allegedly. And look at the way they're handling him. Let's go on to the next part. These are just some of the things that we got to pay close attention to. So let's get into who he was. So Elias, go to the next part here, Rodriguez. So it says that he is an oral history researcher at History Makers, where he prepares detailed research outlines and biographies of accomplished leaders in the African-American community. In the African-American community. This is interesting, huh? Born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, he holds a BA degree in English from the University of Illinois, Chicago. Prior to joining History Makers in 2023, he worked as a content writer for commercial and non-commercial films in the technology space, both national and regionally based. He enjoys reading and writing fiction, live music, film, and exploring new places. He lives in Avondale neighborhood of Chicago. The African-American community, huh? Let's go to a little bit more here. The other thing about Elias, apparently in 2017, he was a member of PSL, the Party for Socialism and Liberation. one of the local chapters. But according to PSL, he is no longer a member of that organization. Apparently, he was just a member in 2017. They put out a statement here. We reject any attempt to associate PSL with the DC shooting. Elias Rodriguez is not a member of the PSL. He had a brief association with one branch of the PSL that ended in 2017. We know of no contact with him in over 7 years. We have nothing to do with the shooting and do not support it. In the comments, PSL is really getting destroyed in the comments. So just FYI. But this was the other part to me that was suspicious. So he just happened to have been at one point associated with PSL. Why is that significant? PSL, along with Answer Coalition, they are the organizations that organizes these massive pro-Palestinian protests that you've seen. The first protest in DC after October 7th that had over 500,000 people, that was PSL and Answer Coalition. They are known for being able to turn out big numbers, right? They have buses that goes to different cities to pick people up to take them to protests in DC. So they have more resources. They have a good amount of funding, I would say, if they can do these things. Like, they're not like, just some grassroots organization that just has small dollar donations. They have good backing and good funding, right? Don't you think it's kind of strange that the person who did the shooting just happened to have been connected with PSL, the organization that was responsible for having those massive pro-Palestinian protests across the country? Don't you think that's just a little convenient? And what does this mean for PSL? Because I'm about to tell you guys right now, check it out. We're about to see a massive crackdown. A massive crackdown. I'm talking about censorship like no other. I'm talking about forget about free speech. Who knows what they may do about protests? They may make a ruling that you can't have pro-Palestinian protest. Now, this guy was a member of PSL. First of all, PSL does not advocate for people to go out and do what he did. They don't. But he was a member of PSL. Why would he do this? Because I'll tell you what I think about Elias. One or two things is happening here. I believe he was either an infiltrator, a plant. I believe that there may be some intelligence at work here. This is what people mean when they mention the false flag. I believe he may have been a plant. This guy, there are now pictures going around on social media of him with Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, where he was active in other grassroots organizations, apparently in Chicago, with Black organizers as well. I mean, when I look at people that were infiltrators, that infiltrated the Black Panthers, don't forget, they went to all these protests. They did all these things like they were right along with them. And then you find out years later that some of these people were infiltrators. So it almost feels like to me, this guy was a plant. Let's go on to more information here. Look at this picture. Now, somebody make this make sense to me. Silent Sir says the shooter in the Washington attack, which killed 2 Israeli embassy staff, did not flee the scene. He carried out the act, asked someone to call the police, confessed, and waited calmly without resistance. Does this make sense to you guys? Does that make sense to any of you? That to me seems a little bit strange. Look how calm he is. Right? Don't forget, one of the ways that they were able to kill and get to Fred Hampton was because the FBI had an infiltrator in that Chicago chapter who told them where Fred Hampton would be. So this guy just sitting here like this. Hello, I'm here. Come arrest me. That don't seem odd to you guys? It was also interesting to me, like I said, there were 4 people apparently that departed at that time, and he targeted 2. Right? Let's see who those two were. Yaron Lashinsky. Yaron Lashinsky. This is one of the tweets that he had. Listen to this, guys. Israel is the only place in the Middle East where Christians can thrive. Not perfect, but livable. Speaking as a Christian myself. As for the rest of the Middle East, I would say it depends in what direction the Muslim world develops, more moderate or more fundamentalist. This is one of the victims, Yaron Lashinsky. So he was a Christian who was ethnically Jewish. We'll get into a little bit more about his background. Okay, that's one of them. Let's dive in here. What do we know about the two Israeli embassy staffers killed in the DC shooting? So let's get in. So this is Yarav, and this is his girlfriend, or was his girlfriend here. Now we want to get into the background of Yaron first. It says that Lashinsky was born in Nuremberg, Germany, was a Christian and a true lover of Israel who chose to dedicate his life to the state of Israel and the Zionist cause. The son of a Jewish father and a Christian evangelist mother, he left Germany and came to Israel with his brother when he was 16 years old. According to Ronan Chauvel, the head of the Argaman Institute for Conservative Studies in Jerusalem, where Lashinsky attended an advanced program. In his LinkedIn profile, he wrote that he had the privilege of calling both Jerusalem and Nuremberg his home. So this part right here is important. He was a man of faith. He took his Christian faith seriously. He was asking the big questions of life and saw himself as someone who wants to be a part of the story of the Jewish people. So he was a Christian Zionist. During his work, the past 2 years as a research assistant at the Israeli embassy in DC, he was responsible for keeping the department up to date on important events in the Middle East and North Africa, conducting research on topics of interest to our diplomatic staff, liaison with other diplomatic missions, maintaining relationships with the local think tank community, and helping organize the delegation visits from various Israeli ministries. Now, check this part out. He served in the Israel Defense Forces for 3 years. So he was a member of the IDF, at least for 3 years. This is why I say these two people were targeted. And if you look at his social media profile, if you look at his account on Twitter, it's all like pro-Israel. He was also very, I don't know how to say the word, but very, I guess, adamant against the Houthis, Ansar Allah. He supported what Israel was doing. He supported the expansion of Israel. He supported the Palestinian people being removed from Gaza. That's who this was. Now, I find something very interesting that I have to say to you guys. I watched a couple of people in independent media cover this, and I watched corporate media cover it. And what it was sad to see is that some of the people who covered this in independent media did not mention to their viewers that he was a former member of the IDF. He volunteered. I think that's important. Let's get into his girlfriend. Sarah Lynn Milgram. Milgram worked in the embassy's Department of Public Diplomacy for almost 2 years, beginning in November 2023, according to her LinkedIn profile. That would have been right after October 7th. She described herself as a dynamic professional. She was an American citizen, according to the Associated Press. Before her time, listen to this, before her time at the embassy, she worked in Tel Aviv for Tech to Peace, which provides high-tech and entrepreneurial training alongside conflict dialogue to young Palestinians and Israelis. Tech to Peace said in a statement on Thursday that Milgram was a devoted and active volunteer in our community, and she was a deeply curious person. She brought people together with empathy and purpose, and her dedication to building a better future was evident in everything she did. Her voice and spirit will be profoundly missed. So these are the two people that were killed. Now, let's go on a little bit further, shall we? Israeli embassy employee killed in Washington had served in the Israeli military, openly supported Gaza genocide. One of the Israeli embassy employees, Yaron Lashinsky, had served in Israeli military and dismissed UN warnings about mass child deaths from starvation in Gaza as a blood libel. Days before his death, he endorsed Israel's Gideon Chariots operation, an official strategy to occupy and seize full control of Gaza through a ground invasion, forcibly displace its population to a southern enclave, and restrict humanitarian aid to the bare minimum. You can see here from Shovel Ronan, he said, beloved Yaron was a student of the Agaman Institute, a Christian who served in the IDF and dedicated his life to Israel and Zionism. It looks like this one was removed. That's interesting. Something happened with this post. I don't know what happened there. I don't even know what that one was. Let me bring that out real quick. Now, one second. Let me just double check that post because I have a lot more to say. Okay, yeah, that was the. Okay, we'll get to the manifesto. So we're going to get to the manifesto here in just a second. We're not going to read the whole thing. We're just going to do like a summary of it. But I will say this. It was really interesting to me, the number of people who left out the fact that he was an IDF soldier. Again, I don't condone violence, but I found it interesting that today I felt like independent media was sounding a little too much like corporate media to me, that they were leaving key things out of this story. Now let's go to this alleged manifesto. Ken Klippenstein decided to publish this. Independent journalist Ken Klippenstein has published what he says is the alleged manifesto, the man accused of shooting two Israeli embassy staffers. Okay, so Ken said that he believed the document is authentic, citing that it is signed by Rodriguez and timestamped before law enforcement or the media had named him. He states his intent in publishing it is not to glorify violence, which he condemns, but to prevent information vacuums that could be filled with disinformation. Writing sunlight is the best disinfectant, especially when politics is involved. The manifesto, here's just a little bit of a rundown of what it said. It offers a long emotional justification for the attack as a political protest against Israel's war in Gaza. Rodriguez describes as a genocide enabled by U.S. complicity. He cites a death toll of 53,000 killed by traumatic force, 10,000 under rubble, and a population at risk of famine due to blockade, writing, "We who let this happen will never deserve the Palestinians' forgiveness. They've let us know too much." He frames his act not as random violence, but as armed demonstration, drawing parallels to historical cases of protest against impunity, including an attempt to throw Robert McNamara off of a ferry in protest of Vietnam War crimes. He references Aaron Bushnell, the U.S. airman who self-immolated in front of the Israeli embassy in February. So he mentioned that. In closing, Rodriguez reflects on the morality of action, expressing that the perpetrators of genocide may still be recognizably human and that humanity doesn't exempt one from accountability. He ends with a message to his family and signs off with here. And this is Ken Klippenstein on the left. And then here's a picture of Elias here, apparently at another protest, one against Amazon. Notice again, if you look at the sign, it says Answer Coalition, answerchicago.org. I told you, them and PSL are the ones that usually work together to organize those massive protests. So I have to say this. As I told you before, this just seems a little too convenient. It just seems like, to me, I would not be surprised if this guy was a plant. I would not be surprised if he was an infiltrator. And now what is happening is that, number one, this is a gift to Israel. If he really cared about the pro-Palestinian movement, why would he do this? Because you would have to know that this is basically going to help Israel. This is a gift to them. This is going to be very detrimental for the pro-Palestinian movement. Because now, and I've already seen it, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but Netanyahu was already saying that Free Palestine is comparable to Hitler. The US government, they've already gotten together, and they're ready to put the smack down. Democrats and Republicans are getting together in a bipartisan way to try to combat anti-Semitism. And if they are now saying that because you said words, that means an attack on Jewish people, what do you think is going to happen with censorship? This is exactly why when I covered the story about Hassan Piker being detained, the reason why I covered that story is not because it was Hassan Piker, but because of who he is someone that has been very vocal for the support of Palestine, but he's also someone that's been able to still get into corporate media spaces. He still goes on CNN. He goes on to, corporate media. He was on the Daily Show, right? So if they are willing to detain him, what makes you think they wouldn't come after you? If you look here, I want to tell you what happened before this event. This is why I say it's very suspicious. AIPAC Tracker said, it is worth noting that less than 24 hours ago, the Israeli military opened fire on a delegation of dozens of diplomats representing 31 countries who were on official business visiting the city of Jenin in the occupied West Bank. This happened right before the shootings happened. This happened. Foreign diplomats came under fire on official West Bank visit, drawing swift international condemnation. So this happened where the IDF fired upon European diplomats in the West Bank. That happened before the shooting happened in DC. Other things happened too. Let's go to part two, Corey. I'm connecting all the dots, and to me, the timing is mad suspicious. Because this also happened the same day before the shooting. Justice Department moves to drop police reform agreements from Louisville and Minneapolis. The consent decrees came after the killings of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd. So I'm sorry, but I'm just putting all the dots together. Don't you think it's kind of strange that on the same day that the DOJ decides to lift police reform in Louisville and Minneapolis, the same day that European diplomats are fired upon in the West Bank by the IDF, the same day is the day that 2 Israeli embassy staffers are shot and killed in DC. Let me explain what I mean. There's a big crackdown coming. You see, they're lifting the police reforms because part of police reforms is body cams. Don't forget about the cop cities that they've been building over the past couple of years. They are getting ready to go full speed in. All of this for Israel, for a state that is killing children and women and has been doing so since after October 7th, 2023. They about to do a big smackdown, ladies and gentlemen. You see that poll that came out that said that Americans no longer really support Israel the way that they used to. Israel has been losing the narrative. Israel's trying to find a way to get that narrative back. The only way they're going to get that narrative back is by getting people to empathize with Israel. Now, how do you do that? Obviously, if there is death, that's one of the ways that you can say, well, we're going to pull people over to this side now. Because see, look, we told you there was a rise of anti-Semitism in the United States. This is why I said, think with your brains, people. Why would this kid do this and think this would be a plus for the pro-Palestinian movement? He would have to know, as if all of you would know, that this would make things worse for the pro-Palestinian movement. That's why it doesn't make sense to me. Who paid this kid? Where did he come from? I'm getting plant vibes. People have no idea what is about to come. This part right here. Thank you, Noctis, for this. They are going to blow this way up. I promise. Be prepared to see all this all over the news, media, celebrities. The accounts here you expect, of course, will pound this home nonstop. Mark my words, this entire week will be filled with every talking head, every pundit, every account and commentator to pull us into war with Iran and to tackle hate speech on X and other platforms. Everyone pay attention. Again, don't you think it's just a little convenient? So listen to what Pam Bondi says here.
Mayor, thank you. Chief, thank you. Ambassador, our hearts go out to you and your staff. I spoke to the President of the United States multiple times tonight on behalf of the President. His prayers are with all of us, all of the Jewish community, everyone in Washington, D.C., state, local, and federal agencies, and our great U.S. Attorney, Jeanine Pirro, who will be prosecuting this case. We'll be doing everything in our power to keep all citizens safe, especially tonight, our Jewish community. Our prayers go out. We have the FBI, all of our federal agencies will work hand in hand with you, Chief, as we have done, and you, Mayor, to do everything we can to keep our citizens safe. We will follow the facts. We will follow the law. And this defendant, if charged, will be prosecuted to the fullest extent. Mayor.
Okay. They are about to try to, I believe, unleash massive protections. Don't be surprised if at some point, well, it's Thursday now, but who knows what could happen tomorrow. Don't be surprised if at some point they're rushing through urgent legislation. And I'm going to explain to you, like, we'll talk a little bit more about it on call in because there's just some things I don't even want to get into, like on here, to be honest with you. But when I say something ain't right, it's not right. I'm going to try to tell you guys, this is not going to make things better. Wait till you hear what this guy said. See, I'm telling you, they're going all in now. Shout out to Blakely for capturing this.
Responding was kind enough to hand me a phone. On the other line was the President of the United States, Donald Trump, who told me that his administration is going to do everything it can possibly do to fight and end anti-Semitism and the hatred that's being directed, the demonization and delegitimization of the state of Israel. Together with President Trump, our Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, will stand.
Excuse me, what? Did you guys see that? Did you see how we tried to slide that in there? Other than saying what is a pretty normal standard thing to say when something like this happens. Hey, condolences to your family. We condemn this attack. We're going to do everything we can to fight hate and fight anti-Semitism and find out the reason for this because it just happened and they haven't even investigated it. He immediately pivots to, oh, President Trump said his administration will do everything we can to do to fight hate and anti-Semitism. Okay. And the delegitimization and demonization of the state of Israel. Excuse me? We're going to.
Did everybody hear that? See, he said it very quickly, but the thing is, he slipped in the state of Israel. So they may try to make it now that if you criticize the state of Israel, they may try to say that's a crime. Like, get ready for it, folks. I'm telling everybody right now, get ready for it. This is why I say this all seems to be a little bit too convenient to me. Because the American people, for the most part, most of us, we know what's going on in Gaza. We know what they're doing to the people. A lot of us know about the history more so now, especially after October 7th. More people chose to educate themselves about what was going on. So now it's almost like we got to find another way to shut them up and to stop them from protesting. We got to find another way to silence them. And don't get it twisted, fam. Some of our Western allies are not too keen with this either. Canada, France, and the UK have announced that they're going to put sanctions on Israel because of what they're doing in Gaza. That was just announced. Israel has lost the world stage. They have lost a lot of support. So now you see everything's coming into work. I feel like this would be a last ditch effort. What happened last night, I feel like that would be a last ditch effort. Again, I do not condone violence, but the timing of this is suspect as hell. I just want everyone to wake up to that. The timing of it all. So I'm glad that Blakely caught that part because I didn't see that last night. You can already see it happening now. Look at what they're doing. Make no mistake. If you screamed free Palestine, you helped pull the trigger. Everybody see this? It's already starting, folks. It's already starting. The U.S. is about to become, and I tell you, if you're one of the people and you've been waiting to leave the U.S., now might be your time. It's all starting to happen. So you see what they're doing? It's been all over social media, and not just social media, also on CNN, because Jonathan Greenblatt from the ADL went right on to CNN and points his fingers at Hassan Piker for the reason why this happened. Now does everybody see the dots I've been trying to connect here? This is why it was put all the pieces together. Wasn't Hassan Piker just detained like a week ago? Then you have the lifting of the police reform. Body cams are a part of police reform. So if they don't have on body cameras, guess what? Your word against theirs. Put it all together. And then you have the shooting Wednesday night. Huh? Listen to this. Watch him blame Hassan Piker.
But all of us need to call it out. I'm thinking about the New York Times doing a gauzy profile a few weeks ago of this gamer, Hassan Piker, who regularly employs awful genocidal rhetoric against Jewish people in the Jewish state. Like, extremists should not be empowered. People who spout prejudice should not be platformed. This is a moment when we need to look ourselves in the mirror and say, we've got to stop this because the consequences are deadly.
Jonathan Greenblatt has spouted prejudice multiple times, right? How can you say that? It's just crazy to me. It's like they've lost the brainwashing game. They're really trying to convince people that the majority of casualties have happened to Israelis. That's not what happened after October 7th. The majority of casualties have been the Palestinian people since October 7th, and even going back before. The reality is this, folks. Like, you've got to be living in, are we in the Matrix? You have to be living in another world if you really can sit here and believe this mess. The numbers don't lie. You can look at the data and see they are slaughtering Palestinians. They're literally, you've had a number of Israeli ministers that have been on corporate media using genocidal rhetoric against the Palestinian people. No word from the ADL about it. Jonathan Greenblatt has called them animals and all this kind of stuff. But now we're supposed to believe that the real threat is Hassan Piker. Grasping at straws. This is why I question what happened. And I want other people to question too, because this is very scary, very scary. So here's what people need to get prepared for, okay? I really do feel like this was a last ditch effort. We've known about the Hannibal Directive. I would not be surprised if intelligence was behind this. They have been known before to kill their own people. That's called the Hannibal Directive. I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised if Elias was an infiltrator, was a plant. All these organizations have one, and sometimes more than one. I would not be surprised. The timing of all of this, to me, is suspect as hell. Because now what I think is going to happen, they're going to rush through pieces of legislation. They're going to make it so that you can't have pro-Palestinian protests because they're going to say that it's hate speech. Watch. By the way, You don't see them do this towards any of the groups that have been doing like hate speech and hate crimes against people. You don't see them try to ban the KKK. You don't see them try to ban neo-Nazis. No, it's these college students that want a genocide to stop. That's what they're trying to shut down. I wish America wake up. I wish America, everybody wake up and see what's going on. When we get to the South Africa story, you'll also see a connection there as well. Protest, free speech. Don't be surprised if they start removing people from X. Facebook has been notorious for removing people. Don't be surprised if they remove people from X, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, etc. I would even don't be surprised with Rumble either. Because what they're going to, and by the way, Chuck Schumer would get on board with it too. They're going to have bipartisan support. But they couldn't get bipartisan support to get the police stop killing unarmed Black people. And what I'm really, really concerned about is the unfortunate part about this is you do have people that have been, allies, and you have people that have had solidarity with the Palestinian people. You have people like who are Jewish, like Katie Halper, like Max Blumenthal, like Aaron Mate, like a lot of the protesters that were on the campuses were Jewish students. You have that solidarity. And what I'm really, 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 really afraid of is that once they ramp up the censorship, I think they'll probably ramp up surveillance. I'm really afraid that it's going to make people feel as though they don't want to interact with said group, because they're afraid they're going to have to walk on eggshells because they may be accused of being anti-Semitic. What are we doing? Where is this country going? None of this is America first. This is Israel first. And if you can't criticize the state of Israel, we're headed for scary times. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.